Alrighty, and we should be live right now on YouTube. What is going on, everybody? This is going to be the video right now for the breakdown. I'm doing this live, so the editing process doesn't take a while because the times are weird for this Korean Baseball League. They'll start now for these past couple of days since opening day at like 5:30 in the morning East Coast time. So editing it, getting it all up, it's not worth it for the extra hour of time and waiting for it to upload. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to break down through this slate I have, and I'm going to show you something that I usually do on Patreon. I'm going to do on Patreon, so these videos will come out infrequently on YouTube, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 times a week at most. The rest will be over on Patreon, and then I'll have these sheets, which are just the stat sheets. They'll start to fill themselves out more for this year as we obviously get that data, and then also I'll be ending up having some more stuff. What's going on? I see people getting into the chat. I will try and address any questions in the chat. This will be about a 15-minute stream or so, and I'll have the player projections in terms of pitchers on here, rankings, and stack rankings is everything that I'll show today in this video. So welcome if you are here, if you've appreciated my content. If you are not yet subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. I appreciate that. And let's get into it. So just looking at some of these pictures, you're going to have some major league pictures. I mean, the cover boy right now is Chris Flexen on the cover right there, former New York Met in the major leagues. And you're going to end up getting him starting tonight for what will be his first start of the season, and probably the biggest favorite in what we've seen right now, being the most impressive team, I would say, in the Korean Baseball League through 2 games, at least in terms of a value rating from a Draftkings perspective, in terms of getting your best bang your buck. They're the biggest favorite. The odds are moving a good amount right now, minus 205 since opening. They move a ton. Best value pitcher, says Andre. So this is actually good. I like interacting with the chat because these are going to answer a lot of people's questions. So I'll slide right over to my projections in a second, but the best value pitcher is going to be without a question, and we can get right into them right now. So for me, the best value pitcher on the day is going to be Chang-Mo Koo, who is right now projected for the most points for me as being a $5,700 pitcher, a minus 155 favorite for NCD. And their line is actually moving, I believe, since opening. Right now, the last time I checked, it was NCD, minus 155, which was recently. That's my best value. Value for pitchers is going to be very, I don't know, it's going to be very loose because you can see there's a value rating of a 2.05, the second best value on the slate for my lowest projected player. So value in baseball is going to be a little bit subjective. You can't just look at it like in the NBA because the fantasy points actually matter, your upside. But in this position right here, Chang-Mo Koo, 14.8 projection. That's by far an A for me. So this is right here, as you can see, I'll make it a little bit bigger. So what this page is for pitchers, it's just basic information, fantasy points per game. They don't have any yet. Their win odds today, because that's going to be very much factored in, considering MLB winning matters for pitchers. They get a good amount of points as a bonus, complete games, all that stuff. Matters so much more in the Korean Baseball League because there's not as many strikeouts from what I've seen. So you're going to need that. So that's an important side to just look at on this page. But then here's my ranking for them tonight. This is taking into account GPPs. Even in the MLB, I don't really play cash. So rankings are for GPPs, projections right here. And then this is just a value rating relative. So the value rating is going to look bad because the salary ranges aren't that far. There's no like $11,000 pitchers, or at least we haven't seen any yet. If there were, you'd start to get a little bit more value out of this, or if you were to see probably more strikeouts, you'd see a better value rating here for one of these pitchers, but in general, you're not going to see a ton of them. So with that being said, this is the way that you want to approach it. Yes, find your value pitcher. There's a really good chance that, 1,200 to 1,500 people are going to watch this. That's going to change percentages, not by a massive amount, but ownership percentages by 1 to 3% for this type of a league when there's not a lot of people playing in general. There's only 10 to 15,000 people playing in general. So you can be sure that Chang-Mo Koo is going to be highly owned, if not one of the highest owned, as a top 5 favorite, a top 4 favorite on this slate, coming in with the highest projection for me specifically. And if there's anybody out there today making projections, I assume they're using very similar stats and statistics. So I would also then assume that you're also going to see them coming through, and I'm going to try and increase this and see what happens here. Cool. You're also going to just see them with similar projections. So you can assume that Chang-Mo Koo is going to be probably the highest owned pitcher. Maybe in a couple of weeks we'll get a little bit different stuff once there's more people involved. But when there's only going to be 10 pitchers every single night anyways, you're going to have chalk on some of the pitchers. So I'm not going to get away from it tonight because it's still only night 3. Maybe in a couple of weeks you take that stance if you can get a really good gauge of what ownership is going to look like. But for tonight, I'm fine kind of taking in that ownership that's going to be on there. And then Chris Flexen is the biggest favorite tonight on the slate, the most expensive pitcher, but my second pitcher in terms of projected points. That would be, if you're playing cash, the best cash combo tonight, in my opinion, or tomorrow morning, if you want to get technical. Chris Flexen and Chang-Mo Koo in cash games. And even in GPPs, it's not going to be a terrible option, but it's also going to be the most owned option because one of them is the most expensive pitcher and kind of locks in that upside with the big win favorite. And then the other one is a very cheap pitcher and is a big favorite with a lot of upside in terms of strikeout department and just overall pure projection. So if we do try and look at some of the pitcher data that is available for us, For a guy like Chang-Min Koo, you're getting 9.6 strikeouts per 9. That's exactly why he's popping as my highest projected player. He's leading this slate, even if you throw in some MLB data for these pitchers, with the most strikeout rate per 9. It's not even really that close. So yeah, that's the way the pitcher seems pretty straightforward tonight. You have a pretty clear and obvious value pitcher that really is the best pitching option on the slate, in my opinion. If you wanted to get different, I do think that there's a range to get different between the 7K and the 8K range pitchers today. There's 3 of them. They're all favorites, although KTW's pitcher in terms of Jae-Sung Bae is going to be a slight favorite today in a 12.5 point projection. It's at least going to have a little bit less ownership on it, but yeah, those are the 2 best options. And then you're going to have the $8,000 range of pitchers being completely fine for you. I have them ranked as Bs, so I have 4 players tonight, 2 as As, 2 as Bs. The rest are going to be either C or D, so that's where I'd go. I'd stick to the Bs and the As tonight. There's 4 of them in player pools. That's what I end up and intend to be doing tonight. If you are indeed watching still, please, I can't do it, I'm not doing post-production editing on this since it's a live stream, but hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Putting out a ton of NFL content as well. I have free rookie rankings, top 50 rookie rankings for the NFL. You might not be as interested in them right now, but if you just want to check them out, they're down below, all the positions in one. I'm also working on a ton of stuff for an NFL draft guide. If you want to find out any more information about that, there's all stuff down below to be able to get those rookie guides and some free DFS strategy stuff as well. So this stuff is what I'll be doing maybe 2 or 3 times a week in videos for the Korean Baseball League. And then in a month or so, we're going to be getting the MLB back for spring training is coming back in a month at PGA. So we'll be back to normal pretty quickly. It seems like a 99% chance that the NFL season starts on time and that all these other leagues come back with all the positive news that has been coming out lately in regards to testing and being able to control this thing from a sports standpoint, at least, so to get it back up and running. So hopefully y'all are sticking out. Hopefully y'all are staying safe out there. But yeah, if you want to get any of this content with the projections, rankings, all that, it'll be on Patreon 7 days a week. And then I'll do videos on it maybe like 2 days a week over here on YouTube. So that's pitcher. It's pretty straightforward. Chang-Min Koo, Chris Flexen. I would X out completely the Ds on this slate, so which are going to be your 2 cheapest pitchers. I'm just not going to get there. They're either big underdogs or they have absolutely no strikeout upside. So even if they went 5 innings for you and ended up picking up a win somehow, that's the only way that they'd even start to realize value. And even at that point, they're getting you like 11 or 12 points, and it might not be enough. So I'm probably just going to X off the 2 bottom feeders. At that point, 8 pitchers are left. I might even X off the Cs on this slate. Leaves you with 3 Bs and 2 As. I think that's where I'd run with pitcher. And now stack rankings. So I mentioned it on a previous video, I think yesterday's. I don't really look too much into the side of it as, I guess you can say, like individual players. I look at individual players. I like doing 5-1-1-1 stacks, 5-2-1 stacks, 5-3 stacks. So in those one-off stacks, you need individual players, especially in a 5-1-1-1. You need 3 individual players. So on slates that are only 5 games, it's harder to do a 5-1-1-1 stack. It's not extremely hard, but it becomes a little bit more difficult in terms of fitting pieces together because there's not as many teams to choose from, not as many salaries when you're trying to build a lot of lineups. So I do think that one-offs are completely fine. So looking at individual player, 1, projections, but 2, just their stats and how they fit into your lineup is good. A really easy way to look at it if you don't want to look too deep into that, don't want to make your own projections, especially if you're only going to be playing this for the next 2 to 3 weeks like I am. So I don't want to put a ton of time into projecting out every single individual player. It's just batting order. So the lineups are going to come out at like 5 a.m., 4:30 a.m. I'm luckily up at 4 a.m. East Coast time, so I'm able to see them. But they come out, and at that point, yes, I'm obviously going to be choosing the first baseman that's batting 3rd or 4th on a favorite team that has a ton of power statistics and slugging percentage and all that, compared to a guy who's going to be batting 7th and 8th on an underdog who just doesn't have that. It's an easy decision then for one-off spots. And yes, I can project these things and understand them to an extent as well. So these are my stack rankings, and I'll make them a little bit bigger. This is for the slate for 5-7, 5:30 a.m. So what these are, cash and GPP. So your cash rankings are just going to take into account a little bit more of your value, right? In GPPs, the value doesn't matter as much because if anything, value is probably going to mean less ownership. If there's less value in a stack, there's going to be less ownership, which in GPPs means less ownership means that's a better play. It doesn't necessarily mean they're the best play, but they're a better play than if they had more ownership. So with that said, this takes into account value for your cash rankings. For your GPP, it's going to take into account more so ownership. So that's a big distinction between the two of them. I don't really play cash for any type of baseball, MLB. I don't plan on doing it for this. But if people are interested, at least on that side of it, from the GPP perspective, yeah, these are where I see right now. If you're looking at this, there's really only one team that touches the A. They have a 5.25 implied run total. Minus 200 favorites is KIW today. It's just a nice spot in terms of, if you look at just projected points and projected upside from them with whatever it might be, power in their lineup, overall points from their lineup in general, and then you factor it compared to the amount of value that's in that lineup, it's going to produce a pretty nice upside lineup for a team that probably doesn't pick as much ownership because it doesn't have as much value in the lineup as DOO or SK or whatever it might be. So I think they're all very close. I think there's like 4 teams at the top that are very close. They are DOO, SK, KIW, and KTW. And then if you want to try and find some sort of value, I think the Latte Giants are really And yes, I'm going to call them latte because why not? Giants at the bottom here are very interesting in GPPs because it's kind of a coin flip. They opened up as pretty big underdogs, not big, but like plus 135 underdogs. Now they're minus money. They're not the favorites yet. KTW is still minus 125 favorite, but they are a pretty decent line movement already. Now continue to track these odds because we still have like 12 hours before this stuff goes off, and the lines are going to be very soft for most of the first couple of hours. So continue to track the odds because you can get the Giants as a huge underdog to open at like plus 150, plus 135 to then being the favorite at plus or minus 135, and their price points are all not reflective of that. So if that indeed becomes the case, if their line movement starts to move, you can check out my bookie for the line movement on all that stuff. Yeah, then definitely get into it. And I think they start to become a really value stack at their spot. So a lot of their price points are going to be cheap because they started out as an underdog. But unlike the Vegas odds, which are dynamic and always changing based on the action getting down on there and the leverage on these odds and the money being wagered, the DraftKings salaries do not change once they're dropped. So I think that's a nice spot to look at some upside. Outside of that, yeah, favorite stacks today in terms of GPPs are probably KIW, the Latte Giants. Those two stand out a lot. And then your most expensive teams are going to be SK and DOO right there with KIW. So that's probably where I go the most with stacks. It's a very quick and brief video, but if you're interested, I will look into it, but I'm probably not going to get into individual player projections just because, like I said, it's nice that there's 50K to first prize pools. I think that's actually really cool. Maybe we'll even get 100K to first. But since spring training baseball is coming back in a couple of weeks, and since the PGA is coming back now in exactly a month, I think tomorrow, it's just not going to hold up all that much to put a ton of legwork in up front. So I just want to be able to provide people with a ton of information that they don't have to pay for a couple times a week if they don't want to. And then if you want to support me during these times over on Patreon, you can go ahead and do that. That is linked down below. There's other stuff linked down below in the description. If you are new to my content and you enjoy this, I do this for a lot of different sports. I'm making a ton of NFL videos right now if you want to get prepped and get a huge edge ahead of people on that stuff. And then I do them from other sports as well. Really enjoy the golf and NBA DFS as well as the MLB that you see right here. So appreciate you tuning in. Hit the like button, subscribe button before you go. My name's Vetri. Hope you're all staying safe. Have a great rest of your day. I'm going to throw the end screen on. It'll pop up the playlist for the NFL 2020 season. Another video if you want to check it out for NFL stuff, and then also the subscribe button where you can hit it on that end screen. So stay safe, everybody. Best of luck on this slate. 50K to first is pretty cool for a real life sport out there. It is night 3 of the KOB. Somebody go knock down 50K. Peace out.